You are now entering the hot take zone. This is Hot Takes with Terry and Nate.
All right, cool. Well, let's get into some hot takes, damn it.
Hot takes. I like that this is going to be like hot takes, but reflecting.
Yeah, hot takes. Basically, the hot take is 2020. It's shit. We agree. How can we make 2021 hopefully less shit?
Yeah, I can get behind that as the take lens.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but hot take on 2020, it was pretty terrible. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, the things that really aggravated us from a gaming standpoint from 2020. And then quickly, things that we're interested in and hopeful for, and our New Year's resolutions to make 2021 less shitty.
Yeah. So this year I ran a bunch of games. I ran Mage the Ascension, Pasión de las Pasiones, which was impressive because we did 6 sessions out of a 12-page like quick start manual until the wheels just kind of fell off. So I'm going to say we got our money's worth out of that free supplement. And it's always good to spend quality time with Powered by the Apocalypse. PBTA is on my 2020 gripes list, but that's mostly me. Ran Blades in the Dark because that's easy as pie and you get to run around stealing things, and who doesn't like doing that? And it takes me up to 10 minutes to prepare for a 4-hour session of that as a GM, which is great.
Yeah.
It's the GM equivalent of like, oh crap, it's my day with the kids, put Nickelodeon on. Like, you just need a distraction for it. And then a bunch of Invisible Sun. The thing, if I were to be like, hey, this was the year for this to work and it didn't, I really thought the online convention game was going to be better. Like, there was OPP Con, there was Hastily Improvised Con. A few of those happened at the beginning of the year. Even like Gen Con Online was still somehow 930% Dungeons and Dragons. Like, if there was going to be a time where it could be like, oh man, I am an expat who is stuck in Slovenia and I really want to run Starblazer Adventures. Now is the time. Geography is no boundary. I could run my weird ass little game. And it was still 5 out of every 4 games they offered at Gen Con was still Dungeons and Dragons. That was probably the one where I'm like, come on. Where like, I was really expecting small press companies or something to be like, we're going to throw an online convention this year. And now 200 people can try our game who have never heard of it. And maybe they happened and I just didn't hear about it. But if there was like one takeaway for me, it was probably that. It was all these people dumped into gaming because they could. I think, what was it? Roll20 had a 240% increase in users between February and April or something like that. I think this was the year where I really got to try a bunch of new games. I think I had like 9 on my games I got to try list, like two versions of Urban Shadows, Masks, Delta Green, Kids on Bikes, Passion, Exalted Essence, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Aeon Trinity, and City of Mists. I all got to do those. Were you able to knock anything off the to-do list during your impoundment? You were spending the year like moving and setting up a media empire.
I did get to check a few things off.
Okay.
First of all, I didn't get to run anything new, nothing at all. So I'll get to that in a minute, but I got to play some Victorian Age Vampire. I'd never done that before. I did get to play some Shadowrun 6th edition, and I did get to play some Mech Warrior. That's a new one by me. I'm not really what you'd consider a miniature war game aficionado. Lots of technical rules and lots of dice are hard. But I didn't really get to do much because I was just starting a new thing and moving. And so it's been 6 months since I started the podcast. And right now it's mostly just been reading big stacks of books and trying to write videos. I didn't run a game since I ran a Shadowrun game, which might have been back in early March. So I went from like March until the last Sunday of this year without being able to run anything because I just never had time. It wasn't like a super positive gaming scenario for me because most of my gaming either got screwed up because of COVID, or it got screwed up because of the big change with the podcast, or it got screwed up because I just couldn't figure out a way to make it work. But I did finally get to play Werewolf the Forsaken,
Yay.
I did finally get to play a game of Requiem Second Edition. I got to play the new edition of L5R. These are all things I'd never even, I was like, man, whatever, I won't play those. And now, now I'm like, yeah, Requiem is pretty cool, actually. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I hope to add Mage the Ascension to your list within the next about 60 days. I was in a hole preparing for an actuarial exam, which for me involves interval training, where I spend like 2 hours doing math and then 45 minutes crying, and I try and repeat that 3 or 4 times a day. It keeps everything clear.
I can relate because if I had to do 45 minutes of math, I would spend 2 hours crying. So it's good.
You build your way up. That's
Yeah,
the important part. Yeah. It's like a couch to 5K thing, but for your ego and your inability to do math. Like, it's kind of weird. Theoretically, as an actuary, I should be good at math, but even if you ask an actuary, you're any good at math, most of them are like, no, I'm terrible. So it's just one of those things where like the expectations change. But to your thing on storytelling, it was weird for me because like once lockdown started, all my players are like, we can play more now, and I'm like, I don't want to run this every week. Like, it takes me time to come up with things. So that was like the self-knowledge I generated. Like, it helped me figure out which games can I run it every week, which games can I run every 2 weeks, which games can I run every 4 weeks. Like, what is the appropriate interval given a game, and also depending on the people that are in the group. And I'm not going to lie and say that didn't inform the decision. My housemate was just going all out on 5e, and they're now halfway to being level 75 or something. I don't know how Dungeons and Dragons works. And one of them is a little terrier, one of them is a boot, one of them is a wheelbarrow. No, that's Monopoly shit. Yeah, I don't know how 5e works, and that's on my 2021 list.
Are there any things that you really wanted to do in 2020 that you didn't get to?
Yes. The two big ones were, I wanted to do more community content. So I put out 2 bits of community content this year. Because I'm a tryhard, I released a character sheet with Josh Heath. Our character sheet is 16,000 words. So it was a case where we're like, let's write up an example Norse character so Mage players can know what a Norse character looks like. And there's like, well, we're going to have to explain roads. Oh yeah, of course we have to read word. Well, for the roads to make sense, we have to explain the worldview. Oh yeah, of course. Okay, explain the Norse. And it's like, for that to make sense, we have to explain the underlying rules of the system. So very quickly, a character sheet became 16,000 words. I think it's probably one of the only 25-page character sheets available on the Storyteller Vault. So that is locked down.
So I'll put it into perspective for people who are listening, who may be going like 16,000 words. Is that a lot or is that a little? If you watch any of my videos, any of my 15-minute long videos, those have a max word count of 2,000. So that's 15 minutes of video for 2,000 words. So yeah, it's you might as well have written a book.
Which is what essentially we wound up rebranding it. It turned into, here is a guide to a paradigm that comes with a free sample character rather than the other way around. So that was one thing. So I was hoping to do more community content. Part of that was the fact that the exam I was going to take this year kept getting delayed. So I always had an exam like a month and a half in the future for 6 months seemingly. And I really wanted to branch out beyond Mage the Ascension for that. Like, for instance, one of the publications I did was called A Magical Fiasco, which I don't know if you've ever played the game Fiasco. The start of the game is you come up with a set of entangling complications between players. So if you, me, and Rachel were playing a game, we don't actually have characters. Our characters are actually defined by the relationships our characters have. So it wouldn't be, I'm Terry, I work at a gas station, and this is Nate, he's my neighbor, or something like that. It would be Terry, Nate, coworkers, and then it would be up to us to figure out where we're coworkers, or Nate, Rachel, bitter enemies. And then you get to pick what that's about. And so my idea was basically to take that system and apply it to the old world of darkness to come up quickly with entanglements between characters. And I really, and the Mage version, so the company that came up with Fiasco, Bully Pulpit Games, you can copy their system as long as you make it pay what you want or free. And I have that on the Storyteller Vault, and I really want to do one for Vampire, because it would let you very quickly create a complicated coterie. And it does it again based on relationships and entanglements as opposed to who the characters are. So it kind of works backwards. So I was hoping to do more community content stuff, and I just kind of failed to get around to that. Like the podcasts and stuff are nice, but I don't know how many people look at the back catalog, and I make literally no money from it.
Yeah.
And it feels just a little more legitimate to have something that somebody can like print out.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I'm right there with you. And by more, I mean any, because I've not done any at all. And that does not mean that I haven't been working on them. I have a few things that I've been working on, and my goal was to get that first thing out this year, but really COVID kind of screwed that. I need to have someone edit my work. My wife was doing the editing. Well, part of our move, she got a new job and she didn't have time.
Mhm.
So basically, the editing process kind of like dragged to a halt.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, I'm starting a new podcast, I'm starting a YouTube channel. That'll just go to the wayside for a while. Recently, I've been able to find somebody to work on that for me. So my big hope is something will be released on Storyteller's Vault by me in 2021.
So you want to do community content. So you are in Chicago, and most people write a book about that, and you do Werewolf, which is by night. So I imagine you're writing a book. I'm going to call it Chicago by Night. Is that it?
I'm not confirming or denying that at all.
Okay, that would be
I
great
will
if
not-
there were an STV thing of Chicago by Night, but no, not that one. That'll be the full title, unofficial.
I will
Chicago by Night.
neither confirm nor deny that any of those things are happening.
The STV is a fascinating world. Like, I really wish there were someone there doing like, I wish there were a lifeguard for the content pool, as it were.
Yeah.
Someone put out a supplement that it was billed as rules on how to play every line together. And I'm like, this is fascinating. If that is a nut you've cracked and you didn't just call it Chronicles of Darkness, I am interested in your work. And
Mhm.
you crack it open and you're like, oh, these are just all the ability descriptions from Demon the Fallen. You've picked that to work off of? Like, you read the entry for dexterity and it's the same. And then it's 35 pages of all the backgrounds and merits and flaws across all of the games. I'm like, this is in no way cross game whatsoever. So, but then at the other end of the spectrum, you have the stuff that like Hogan's putting out where
Mhm.
you're like, oh, wait, I thought White Wolf put this out. No, this is just a guy and some friends with better
Yeah.
production values. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I think one of the big things I also want to try are some very short publications. I think one of the areas where the STV doesn't have a lot of stuff is on the mechanics side. And one of the big things I like is I think a game's setting, mechanics, and mood should all kind of reinforce each other. That if you want to play a game of vampire that is about dread and personal horror and reflection of the terrible things you have to do to survive, those are the mechanics that the game should have. And if you want to play We Are Humanity 8 Vampians who are saving mortals from even worse things, I think mechanics for that should exist too, so that they all kind of reinforce each other. So the first one I'm doing is action adventure rules for Mage. As I think Dawkins said on your show, Mage is in a horror world, but in a lot of cases it's more urban fantasy than anything else. So there's a little bit more room. So I'm working with one or two people to put out if you want to do action adventure Mage and completely ignore themes of personal horror and run around saving the world, here's how you can make the old World of Darkness rules let you do that better. So we'll see if that happens.
I'd like to figure out how to do this Twitch stream thing. I've done a few live streams now with friends in 2020. That's a big thing that's been positive this year. It's still like a foreign language to me. Like, I don't really, I don't understand it. And like, how do you get people to watch you? But it seems like the criticisms I had of Twitch, when it first kind of like reared its head, I've kind of gotten past a lot of those. I was always like, who wants to watch anybody play a game? That's stupid. But also, to be fair, like, who wants to listen to people talk? So, how is that any different? But with people being able to play their games online and do their actual plays and their live streams of that, I see the benefit in it. So I've come around. So that's something I'd like to try to tackle and utilize that platform a little bit better, or do it myself in the coming year.
So when you say you want to Twitch broadcast a game, are we talking about you sit down and play a Vampire Swan Song, or you running a titter pig, you editing audio? I think just you with the Audacity and everything going over the same section 4 or 5 times to like remove off. I think people would really be into that. So
that's the actual question. Like,
oh, okay, got it.
I need to sit down and really devise a plan of like how I'm going to use that platform. You know, I got a Twitch channel. I just don't use it because to me, it's another format that I have to like go and learn, and it's intimidating. So yeah, all of those things, like sitting down and figuring out how to do them, are things that I'd like to do. You know, it's a whole series of stuff that's just not being done, that for no other reason than I'm not doing it.
There's so many actual plays there.
Yeah, there are.
There's so many actual plays.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate the actual play community, but I don't know what's there. Maybe because like I never got the Critical Role. Like the one vampire live play I did enjoy was Seattle by Night, but like just the juxtaposition of Jason Carl being Sirius McSeriousson and the gang from Penny Arcade did create kind of an interesting game. But I don't know if that's the exception or the rule. So I would be fascinated to see what your take is. So I have some little goals, some medium goals, and some big goals. Like one of my personal goals is because I have poor impulse control. There was the Mage the Ascension tarot deck that came out in 93 or 94 or something like that. And it's gorgeous. Joshua Gabriel, Tim Brooke art, Tim Bradstreet did one of the suits. So like it brought together all the iconic artists from the old World of Darkness, and each one of them did a suit. And for either the 20th anniversary Kickstarters or as a special promotion, they produce a new tarot deck in French, Spanish, and Italian, and it's gorgeous. Not quite the same associations, but it's nice just to see a new coat of paint. And to buy one was like $45 US, not too bad. Shipping was $35.
Yikes!
I'm like, yay, Europe and US by extension. It turns out moving things over an ocean, non-trivial. So props to the pilgrims. So I then started looking around and I'm like, okay, where are the volume breaks? Like how many of these decks can I get and resell? So I bought all the remaining stock that a particular company had. And I'm like, if I can resell these in America for $55 or $60 a piece, I'll cover the entire cost of shipping, and mine will only cost me $40. Hooray! But by extension, one of the things I did during COVID is I'm trying to go from high school Spanish to something beyond that. So as part of that deal, I also purchased a copy of M20 in Spanish. So there is a copy of La Ascensión coming towards my door, and I would like to try and read most of it in Spanish in 2021. Gaming wise, I have a list of 10 games I would like to try, of which I would like to give 4 a go. So Yellow King, Savage Worlds, Star Trek Adventures, Cthulhu Confidential, Ars Magica, Torg, Things from the Flood, Alien, Unknown Armies, and Vampire 5th Edition. Like this was the year where I played a whole bunch of weird little games where I'm like, oh, this is a game where you're a cat with a pet bee and all your conflicts are resolved by flipping 2 coins. So like a lot of weird ass indie games and a whole bunch of Powered by the Apocalypse and a whole bunch of Forged in the Dark. So this year I'm like, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to play V5 and Dungeons and Dragons. And people are like, really? That's a reach for you? I'm like, oh yeah, it is. Do you have any games on your hit list?
I do. And most of them are games that I've already like bought or bought into. I have a copy of the most recent edition of Cult. I still have yet to play it. It was a goal in 2020. I screwed that up. I would like to try the new edition of Cyberpunk. I haven't played Cyberpunk since like early high school. They came from Beneath the Sea. I have the book, I have the quip cards, I have the storyteller screen or the director screen, and yet I still have not played it. And I'd really like to get a firm understanding of it and play it. Alien, haven't played that. It looks really incredibly fun. Something in the transhuman sci-fi genre. There's a couple of games out there. There's
Eclipse Phase.
Yeah, Eclipse Phase is a great example. I have the first edition of that. I've never played it. I'd really like to play the Game of Thrones RPG.
I think we should do a live stream of us not even playing Alien, but just figuring it out. And that way we could get a lot of people to hate watch us
right.
and being like, no, you're doing it wrong. You don't add a D6 to that pool.
Yeah.
Like, and that, that could be the thing. I found it very satisfying to run con games.
Mhm.
I did 8 sessions of a one shot this year that I'd come up with that I thought gave a okay job of presenting Mage. And like, it was very useful to me as someone who purports to understand Mage to have 40 people try the system for the first time, or probably something like 35 people ultimately try the system for the first time. And that was really educational. And it forced me to be like, what are new players really getting out of this game? And what direction, what knobs do I tweak to get the feeling that I want from people who I don't know otherwise? So I hope to keep that again. And like, I don't know about you, but the RPG community is a weird beast to me. Everything in RPGs is either super small, it's the 6-person table, or it's the giant Discord server or something like that. Like, there's very little in between. And my solution for that is I think I may try and run a one-day convention. The original term I wanted to call it was Prepared Well in Advance Con, after we had that string of conventions that are like, hey, Nate, you want to go to this con? Sure. When does it start? 45 minutes ago. You're like, how is it being scheduled this way? There's no one's doing anything else with their time. You could just schedule it for like, did people think we were going to be like running around in a field of wildflowers in June come May?
I don't know.
Like, you can plan more than 15 days in advance. I think I would like to try and do a one-day convention.
Mm-hmm.
Probably either Mage specifically, or Urban Fantasy, or Exalted, and just try that. And I think the key innovation I want to try there is I would like to pay the GMs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Pay people for their time.
I think the GM should get $2 to $3 per participant hour. So if you run a 5-hour session, 4 hours seems to be the standard online. Like, I think the storyteller should get $50 for that.
Yeah.
Magpie Games has something they call the curated play program, where it is $24 per person for 2 4-hour sessions, which I think is an interesting model. And I wonder if OWOD could do that. I think you and I both love Onyx Path and the work they do. I think they could really level up their marketing and their community outreach. And I think that is one way of doing it, especially if at the end of a session, I could give every participant a coupon that says, hey, you tried this game. Here's 50% off at Drive-Thru-RPG for your copy of V5 or Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th or whatever was run. So that's, I don't know if that's going to happen. I would like to either have a big community content book or that kind of as the capstone for me for 2021.
I don't know if this is something that could happen in 2021 because COVID is still a thing and it's probably going to be a thing for a little while. And that may be prohibitive as far as planning is concerned. But something I would like to do is, on a similar vein of the con, I think I would like to try running an actual LARP for a large quantity of people. It would require a great deal of planning. I would need people, in my corner and a team. But, I story told LARPs for years and years and years, but they were for people that were basically from the neighborhood. So something like that would be something I think down the road I'd like to do. I think it would be more reasonable than like a full scale convention. And it would be easier, air quotes, easier to plan. But that would be something I'd like to do, either do it myself or get involved in one that's already happening.
If you need logistics or a heal or a mortal blood bag, you give a call. If you do that LARP, count me as being in your corner. Yeah. And once I get you to Mage, then we can do our bad Twitch broadcast of us doing aliens incorrectly.
Sounds good to me.
I have developed strong feelings about Powered by the Apocalypse. It is lovely. It is beautiful for what it does. It will never be my game system. It does genre and theme very well, but I have discovered that literally every game I want has either a genre pivot in the middle of it or is smack dab between 2 other games. And PBTA just does not accomplish that well. We ran Pasión de las Pasiones, which was supposed to be like a Spanish telenovela, but midway through, all the characters we're really enjoying dealing with this drug cartel. Can we do more of that? I'm like, not really. The moves you have in this game are declare your love passionately, lash out at the world, or reveal a secret. Cut up a guy and feed him to a hippo doesn't appear to be in the core rules, but we could come up with something. So, it was weird to have a moment where it's like, yeah, this game about Spanish melodramatic romance is great, but really we want to get into drug trafficking. It was probably one of the stranger conversations I had with my table this year, but 2020.
I have nothing else. 2020 sucked. 2021 hopefully will be better. Thank you everyone for watching. Camera's there. I'll use my eyeballs. Thank you everyone for watching. And let us know what your hot takes for 2020 are and what you hope goes well for 2021. Talk to y'all later. Thank you. Goodbye.